Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, twakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba ututeremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Sergeant at Arms, ring the bell for 10 minutes.
Having not achieved a quorum in pursuant to Standing Order 35, the Sergeant at Arms have been asked to ring a bell for 10 minutes to allow members of Parliament from across the political divide to walk into the chamber for today's sitting. Today being an early morning sitting that is expected to start at 9:30, and being a Wednesday of 21st February. Members of Parliament today are expected to deliberate on a couple of bills and motions, starting with the Universities Amendment Bill number 5 of the National Assembly, Bill number 75 of 2023, which is brought by Honorable Benjamin Gathiru, the Member of Parliament. This is the bill that is in its first reading. We also have a motion of number 27 of 2023, the motion by Honorable Abdul Haro on the development of a satellite-based climate change monitoring policy. The House resolved that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry develops a policy on IT that develops the use of satellites in the monitoring and forecasting of climatic condition with the objective increase capacity to respond to weather-related risk and vulnerabilities, including climate change. The Constitution recognizes the people's respect for the environment as the country's heritage and commitment to sustaining the environment for the future generations. It further aware that the cycling drought in the country has already caused devastating effects and serious disruptions to the economy. Climate change is a global problem, with developing countries being the most affected, as these regions are dependent on climate-sensitive sectors such as agriculture and forestry. Further recognizing that the severe effects of climate change are already being experienced in the form of frequent droughts, flooding, and other extreme weather occurrences. It's a concern that the current climate change monitoring mechanisms in the country are based on traditional methods which rely on ground observations and climate models which have limitations in terms of accuracy, in terms of timelines and spatial coverage. Noting that the country recently launched its first operational satellite to collect and transmit high-quality data. There is technology can help in accurately monitoring and forecasting climatic and weather patterns. Pursuant to Standing Order 34.1, the quorum has been achieved, and now the House commences. I now hand over you to the plenary. My name is Angela Chihor.
Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The Deputy Majority Party Whip.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, morning sitting. Number 1, reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the years ended 30th June 2021 and 30th June 2022, and the certificates therein in respect of A. Mackinnon Road Girls Secondary School, B. Moi Boys High School, Kasigau, C. Mbakalo Friends Secondary School, D. Mwakirunge Secondary School, E. Ngami Secondary School, and F. Mgalu High School. Number 2, reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the years ended 30th June 2023, and the certificates therein in respect of A. Public Service Superannuation Fund, B. Scrap Metal Council, C. Kenya Local Loans Support Funds, D. Asian Widows and Orphans Pension Fund, E. Asian Officers Family Pension Fund, F. Agricultural Information Resource Center Revolving Fund, G. State Department for Livestock Development, and H. Petroleum Development Levy Fund Holding Account, the National Treasury, I. the Commodities Fund, and J. Bura Rehabilitation Development Project, National Irrigation Authority. Madam Speaker, I lay.
Thank you. Next order. No, before the next order, Chairperson, Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity. Honorable Haji.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 21st of February, 2024, the report of the Committee on the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on the compliance to Article 54(2) of the Constitution on employment of persons with disability in the public institutions. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Haji again.
Honorable Speaker, I beg motion. Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move.
You beg to give notice of motion.
Yeah, I beg to give the notice of the report of the Committee of the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on compliance of Article 554(2) of the Constitution on employment of persons with disability in public institutions, which was laid on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 21st February 2024. I have another one also.
How many are there? You have another notice?
Yes.
Okay, move.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I beg to Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of motion that this House adopts the first report of the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on employment diversity audit in the public institution, which was laid on the table of the House Thursday, 6th July 2023.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, the Universities Amendment number 5 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 79 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Universities Act. Order number 9, the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2023, second reading. Resumption of debate.
Was there any member on the floor? We have a balance of 22 minutes. Honorable Richard Yegon had a balance of 9 minutes. Is he in the House? If not, we'll give this opportunity to member for Runyenjes. Oh, sorry. Honorable Karemba, hold on. Honorable Yegon, had you finished your contribution? Okay, you have a balance of 9 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. As I initially said last week, I thank the Honorable Member Malulu Injendi, the MP for Malapa, for bringing in this bill, which, as I said earlier, regarding the the village managers, popularly known as currently the village managers, from the onset, these village managers, Madam Speaker, we have known that we need to remunerate these village managers because all what is happening in the village always starts with them. And what we need to get from the village, or all the issues which come up in the village managers are the people who we normally call in the first place to give us this information. Madam Speaker, we need to make sure that payments are given to these people. They have been doing their work without any payment, any emolument. We need to support this bill and make sure that they also benefit like any other people, like all of us. The administration starts from them and come all the way upwards, up to the top level. So, Madam Speaker, I beg to support this bill. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member for Runyenjes.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi ya kuchangia kwa hili jambo muhimu ambalo linahusu village elders. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa muda mrefu hawa ni watu muhimu sana ambao wako kwa jamii yetu na ambao wamekuwa wakisaidiana na serikali kuu kuhakikisha mambo iko sawa pale mashinani. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kushukuru sana Mheshimiwa Malulu Injendi kwa hili jambo la our village elders. Na niseme kuleta huu mjadala na kuhakikisha kwamba umewekwa katika sheria ni kuhakikisha kwamba kama vile ambavyo tuko na wale wanaitwa CHVs, inawezekana tuweze kushughulikia hawa village elders na waweze kupata angalau kitu cha kuwasaidia kujikimu kwa maisha. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimetazama pale kwangu Runyenjes. Kila wakati ambapo DCC ama chief ama assistant chief wako kwa kijiji, watu muhimu ambao wanatokelezea wakiwa wa kwanza ni our village elders. Na wakati mwingi utasikia wakipatiwa heshima kubwa sana wakiwa pale kwa vijiji. lakini hii heshima yao haiambatani na marupurupu, na kwa muda mrefu wamekuwa wakitumia pesa zao kununua sabuni, kununua chakula, na wanatumia muda mwingi kukaa kwa mikutano ile hali hawapei chochote. Kwa wakati uliopita kwa hii bunge tumeweza kuzungumza mambo ya village elders, lakini hatujafika mahali kwa kuwezesha hawa watu kulipwa pesa zao. Kwa hivyo hii sheria ambayo tunaunda wakati huu, mimi naona Mheshimiwa Spika itasaidia ili hawa village elders sasa watambuliwe kwa sheria, kwa sababu wamekuwa tu wakijulikana hivi bila kujulikana kwa sheria. Kwa hivyo hii sheria tukiipitisha sasa, tutahakikisha wametambuliwa na serikali, wametambuliwa na sheria, na sasa waziri wa fedha na waziri wa interior wataweza kuketi na kujua ni vipi ambavyo hawa watu muhimu sana ambao ni village elders watapata marupurupu yao, kwa sababu kwa muda mrefu wamepeana nguvu zao na wakati wao bila kupata chochote. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukuru na ninaunga huu mjadala mkono.
Thank you.
Asante.
Asante sana. Mbunge wa Mandera Kusini, Mheshimiwa Abdul Haro. Are you indicated to speak on this, honorable member? You had already contributed. Okay. Member for Endebess? Not there. Honorable Mary Emase?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion on national coordination. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to support that bill because village elders do play a critical role within our villages in supporting administrative work. And Honorable Speaker, when we even compare with their counterparts at the county called the village administrators, they receive certain remuneration. Honorable Speaker, it would only be fair for us to support and approve this bill that seeks to establish a legal framework, an establishment in law to anchor these positions into law so that they can be advertised, they can be gazetted, because it is only after gazetting that the budget committee can be able to provide a budget for us to be able to offer some remuneration to these village elders. They play a critical role, mediation. They reduce even the number of cases that are taken to court because they manage to sort most of them at their level. But Honorable Speaker, these village elders are human beings. They have families, they have responsibilities. Some of them can hardly afford to take their children to school because they have nowhere else to earn any income. And that is why sometimes probably you will find there are some complaints that I reported my matter and I was asked probably to give a chicken or something. It is because there is no remuneration whatsoever. So I support this bill, and honorable members, let us support this bill so that there is a legislation that establishes the position of village elder in the constitution, in the law, and for them to be able to be remunerated, to be given certain allowance. And I think the amount that has been proposed should even be enhanced to 3,000 or 4,000, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity. I support.
I'll give the member for Bonchari, Honorable Nchoke.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Village elders or managers are very critical in our societies where we come from. The alternative is that all disputes go to the normal judicial system, which is normally very expensive, very complex, and mind-boggling, particularly for people in the villages. They also reduce the costs of accessing justice in resolving disputes that occur from time to time. It's appropriate because they understand issues at the lowest level of our communities. They understand the people whose disputes they are resolving, they are having called upon to arbitrate. Therefore,
and they also invest a lot of time in handling these matters for the communities. I dare say, in addition to remunerating them, that we think about building the capacity so that they have the adequate skills to be able to resolve these disputes that occur from time to time that they are called upon to look up to. Madam Speaker, I support it. I support the motion. In my constituency, they play a very critical role. Work that they're not compensated for. It's therefore fair, it's moral, it's the right thing to do, that they are compensated for their time and for all the energy they put into this work. I support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Endebess.
Madam Speaker, nasimama kuunga hoja hili kwamba sheria iundwe ili wale wasee wa mtaa waweze kutambuliwa kirasmi na wawe baadhi ya kazi ya serikali kuu. Wanapokuwa kule mtaa, hawa wasee wa mtaa huwa wanashughulika na mambo mingi. Unakuta, Madam Speaker, kwamba kabla hujaanza hata mkutano yeyote, huwa wanauliza mzee wa mtaa, mzee wa nyumba 10, ili aweze kueleza. Na unajua mambo ya security yetu inaanza kule nyumba 10, inaanza kule kwenye wazee wa mtaa, na hawa wanafanya kazi muhimu. Na kwa hivyo, Madam Speaker, mimi nataka kuunga hii mjadala na kuunga hii sheria ambayo imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Malulu Injendi, ili tuunde sheria ya kuweza kuwatambua kirasmi na kuweza hata kuwapa marupurupu, ili ile kazi wanayofanya iwe ni kazi ambayo ni inatambulika. Madam Speaker, hapo awali unakuta kwamba wazee wa mtaa walikuwa wanaitwa mkasa, na walipokuwa wanafanya kazi ile malipo walikuwa wanapata ilikuwa ni wanapewa kuku ama mbuzi ama kondoo kwa ile kazi. Na muda inapoelekea kuwa namna hiyo, unakuta kwamba unapompa kuku iwezi kumsaidia, akaweza kusomesha watoto yake, akaweza kujikimu kimaisha. Na kwa hivyo ni mzuri tuweze kutafuta namna. Unakuta zile serikali zingine zimekuja kwa muda, wameweza kuongelea hayo mambo kwamba wazee wa mtaa tunaweza kuwapatia namna hii, lakini hakuna yule amechukua hatamu ama kuchukua nafasi ya kuweza kuifanya sheria. Na kwa hivyo hii ni mambo mazuri kwamba tutengeneze hawa kuwatambua, tuwa na national coordination team ambaye itaweza kujua kwamba ule mzee wa mtaa katika sehemu fulani hata ako na ile uwe mzee wa mtaa ni nini unahitajika kuwa qualifications yako, so that wewe unapokuwa mzee wa mtaa pale hata unaheshimika na wanavijiji. Na kwa hivyo unakuta kwamba kazi mingi ya wazee wa mtaa iko kazi mingi, iko pia hata wakati unapopeana kitambulisho, mzee wa mtaa lazima atambue kwamba ule kijana ni kijana ya fulani. Mtu anapopikana na mke wake, hiyo kesi inaenda kwa mzee wa mtaa ili aweze kuamua. Juzi Jumapili iliyopita, Madam Speaker, nikiwa nyumbani, mzee wa mtaa mmoja kutoka kijiji cha Chepkirot, mzee anaitwa Kambala, akawa amekuja akaniambia sasa mambo ya uhalifu katika kijiji yake imepunguka kwa sababu yeye amekuwa na ushirikiano mzuri na chief na assistant chief na pia na DCC na ACC. Kwa hivyo unakuta kwamba wanatusaidia kwa namna mingi, namna hii ama namna ile, hata pia kuweza kusambaza huduma muhimu ya kiserikali, kwamba kutakuwa na jambo hili ambayo ni ya serikali, kama ni kupeana kitambulisho, kama ni mkutano ya kuongea mambo ya maendeleo, kama ni mkutano ya kuongea mambo ya even public participation. Mzee wa mtaa ndio mwenye kusanya kijiji chake na kuweza kuwapatia hiyo taarifa, na ndiposa utakuta watatoka pale waweze kwenda pale. Hata kukiwa na magonjwa, mzee wa mtaa ataweza kupeana ripoti kwamba kumetokea na ugonjwa katika sehemu hii. Hata hii mambo ya ukunywaji wa pombe, mzee wa mtaa atajua kwamba ni mama fulani ndio mwenye huwa anatengeneza pombe, na anatengeneza pombe iwe mzuri ama pombe mbaya. Kwa hivyo ni mzuri tuweze kuwatambua, na ni mzuri tuweze kuwapatia marupurupu ili pia waweze kujikimu katika kimaisha yao. Nasimama kuunga sheria hii mkono. Asante, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, the time for debate on this order is exhausted. And the mover will have 10 minutes to reply. You are at liberty to donate your time, but you'll stick to the 10 minutes. Honorable Malulu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to donate 1.5 minutes to the following. Dorothy here from Embu, Meru, Kadhambi here, Njoro, Kiforomombo, Donya, then Esther. That's 1 minute each. Yeah. Then this Mheshimiwa here.
Mover. Honorable Njedi, kindly list them again with the time that you have allocated.
So 1 minute each. We have Dorothy.
Honorable Dorothy Muthoni, how long?
1 minute.
1 minute each.
Charity, Njoro, 1 minute.
Njoro.
Donya, 1 minute. Kiforomombo, 1 minute. Esther, 1 minute. Those are 5 minutes.
Those are 4 or 5?
5.
5. So we'll start with Honorable Dorothy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Ijendi for bringing this very important motion to pay something to the village elders. It's important to know the village elders are the link between the national government and the village at the grassroots level. Honorable Speaker, these people play a critical role in our society because they are the ones who provide timely, credible information to the government. Honorable Speaker, I support that they be paid a stipend or a salary every 8 months, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, and I support this important motion.
Thank you, Member for Njoro.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this space for me to do contribution in relation with matters of the elders. Allow me to start by saying I congratulate the Honorable for this fantastic idea for our support for elders in the country. Madam Speaker, the reason being our elders are playing great roles in this country. In relation with the matters of security, Madam Speaker, the matters of elders, making sure that even children go to school, the issues of campaign against drugs and the illegal brews in our villages, they are doing great work in this country. Therefore, we are supporting the Honorable Member of Parliament with these matters of the elders so that they can also be getting allowances or to get salaries for the work they are doing in this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we are purely standing to say that elders are doing great work in this country. Thank you.
Honorable Doris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support Honorable Mululu for this good purposed initiative to our village elders. I've been seeing on television Kenyans dying due to alcohol, and I have a solution. With the village elders, they are the best to fight this menace because the village elders have information of every person in that community. They even know how many chicken one has. Like Donya standing here, they know maybe I have 2 goats. They have all that information. And if you want to kill illicit brew in this country, give these village elders 10,000 a month. we will not even have to invest in NACADA and then other organizations to fight alcohol, because they do good mobilization. Anything about disputes, they are the best.
Member for Lunga Lunga.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza naunga mkono kwamba wale wazee wa miji waweze kulipwa mshahara, kwa sababu wao ndio sura ya serikali pale nyanjani. Pili, wanafanya kazi muhimu ya kuhakikisha kwamba wanalinda usalama. Tatu, hawa wazee wa vijiji ndio ambao wanaleta uwiano kati ya serikali na wananchi pale nyanjani. Miradi yote ya serikali ikiwamo chanjo na miradi mingine muhimu ambayo inawakumba wananchi moja kwa moja, wao ndio ambao uhamasisha wananchi na wao ndio ambao hutoa mwelekeo. Naomba tu ya kwamba mswada huu ufanyiwe haraka ili kwamba wale wazee wetu wa miji waweze kulipwa mshahara, wala sio kiinua mgongo, kwa sababu majukumu wanayofanya pale nyanjani ni muhimu sana, na tumechelewa kwa sababu kila wakati hii miswada inakuja lakini haimalizwi.
Asante Mheshimiwa Passaris.
Asante sana Madam Speaker. Mimi nasimama nasimama na hii motion ambayo imeletwa na Honorable Malulu Ijendi, kwa sababu vile anataka sisi tuheshimu wazee. Lazima kama nchi inataka kwenda mstari ya mbele, iheshimu wazee wake. Wazee wako na kitu ambao wamepitia kwa maisha. Sisi labda tuko na elimu, lakini ile msafara ya maisha ambao hatujapita, lazima tusikize wazee, kwa sababu watatuambia vitu ambao hatuelewi. Ukiangalia vijana wetu wakienda circumcision, tunaitanga wazee kwa sababu tunataka wazee watuambie vitu, mila zetu za zamani, ili tuweze kujua vile tunaweza kupeleka vijana wetu mstari mbele. Na hata sasa hii tukitaka kusimamisha FGM nchi yetu, tunaita wazee ili tuambie hii desturi ni mbaya, tufanye vizuri. Na hawa wazee tunawatambua kwa ile kazi washafanya wakiwa wa citizens wa Kenya, na tunawatambua pia, na tunahitaji tuwatambue na tuwapatie pesa, ili ile ujuzi ambao wako nayo na ile maisha ambao wamepitia wanaweza kutupatia sisi, kwa sababu tunajua nchi inapotea saa ile watu hawasikizi wazee wao. Lazima tuheshimu wazee, na ninapongeza.
Be read a second time. Honorable members, before I open debate on this matter, allow me to recognize in the Speaker's Gallery Kanjuri High School students from Madeira East, Nyeri County, who have come to visit Parliament. On behalf of the House, help me to welcome them to observe the proceedings of the House. I would also wish to further guide the House, further to the guidance given by the Speaker, that all transactions in the House would be by card. All members ensure you have your cards for speaking on the floor and for voting purposes. If you have lost your card, kindly visit the ICT department, ensure you replace your card. Any other way will not be accepted. Further clarification, following the allegation by Honorable Clive Gisairo MP that on Wednesday, February 14th, 2024, there was a total blackout on the proceedings of the House. Further that there are no records of proceedings of the House on that particular sitting, I would like to clarify for records and for clarity purposes. I have duly been informed that on the said day, all records of the House were done properly, and all the sites and the Hansard and broadcast were updated. Therefore, the recordings of the proceedings are intact and done in the prescribed manner, and during that sitting and every other sitting, there is no time that the House has been in a total blackout. On that said sitting, there was internet interruption affecting the YouTube platform for a few minutes, but the records and the rest of the records were not affected, and they are all available as has been requested by Honorable Gisairo. Just for clarification, they are available at the Hansard and the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. You can be able to access them. I will therefore open debate on this matter. I know members had keyed in. I'm not sure if you still want to speak on this. Member for Mandera South, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity, first of all, to thank Honorable Benjamin Gadhiru for this amendment bill. This is a very important amendment bill, Your Honorable Speaker, because in a country where we have a lot of youth unemployment, which by 2022 we had 5.5% unemployment rate in this country, the amendment bill concerning the retirement age, so that those people beyond the age of 60 should not continue serving under any pretext, is a very welcome amendment, and I support it because we have a huge unemployment in this country, and there are very many young men and women who are educated, who are experienced, serving in many institutions, including non-governmental institutions, who can be able to take over some of these jobs from these elders who have retired at the age of 60. So this amendment, particularly on the retirement age, is very important. On the amendment on the acting officers, I think that's also a very important amendment because the acting officers in this country, especially in some state departments and government institutions, has been a very thorny issue. I would take an example of the Teacher Service Commission, where a lot of teachers have been, subjected to acting for several years, including some 5 years, some 6 years. Some of the teachers are even have two acting letters. They first of all get promoted as acting teachers as deputies, and then while they are still acting as deputies, they are given another acting letter as principals, another promotion. And this has been a very serious matter. And as far as this amendment goes, I wish that this amendment covers all the other state institutions or state departments, so that this question around acting actually covers uniformly all the other institutions, because institutions like TSC, for example, has put this provision of acting administrators under regulations. It has even removed it from the TSC Act. It does not subject their teachers to the Public Service Commission Act under this provision of acting, and has put it under regulations, which sometimes they use it to do whatever they want to do in order to deny the teachers who are in acting capacity the right either to be confirmed as teachers in that substantive position after the acting period, or revert back to the original position after the acting position. They have even gone ahead and cleverly issued letters. Instead of issuing letters with acting capacity, they have issued letters to call it additional assignments in order to avoid these questions around acting. And therefore, I would wish that this amendment goes further than, and covers all the other state institutions and state departments, and particularly institutions like TSC, which has abused this provision on acting left, right, and center. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Mwingi West, have you indicated to speak on this? No. You're becoming a nomad.
As I prepare myself, just walked in. Move to the next member as I prepare myself.
All right, you're not speaking on this. Member for Moiben, are you indicated to speak on this? Honorable members, if you're not indicated to speak on this matter, withdraw your card. Make my work easier. Honorable member for Marsabit.
Thank you once again, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important amendment bill, as I congratulate the consideration committee on labor on consideration of the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill 2023, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2023. I know the committee has given it a lot of attention. From what the chair has said and Mheshimiwa has said, it confirms that they have given it a lot of attention and also received enough response from the people through public participation. Madam Speaker, the amendment bill is quite clear because it prescribes the mandatory retirement age at 60 for any other person, and 65 for people living with disability, and also states that the period of an officer may work in an acting capacity is 12 months. Madam Speaker, I will only concentrate on those 3 areas, just as the report has captured. This means that when people retire at age 60, I know those people who are getting closer to that may be worried, but putting into consideration the number of young people who are waiting for employment, who are there, who graduated and performed very well and have very good certificates, and they cannot be employed because many people who are in offices are between the age of 45 to 60. This will give people opportunity, will increase the job vacancies, and that then will create enough opportunity for our young people to be employed. Again, vibrancy. Our young people are quite innovative and active, and again, they have, they will have a lot of commitment and bring in new synergy. So it will give us a lot of opportunity to bring into consideration our young people and also reduce the challenges we currently have of unemployment of our young people. So I agree with that. Then when we talk of people living with disability, the 65 years of age, I think that is a special consideration. While all the others retire at 60, our people living with disability have been given 5 more years, whereby they can also prepare themselves and also maybe finish what they have not finished, so that they can also give space to others. My only recommendation here is any vacancy that somebody who has been living with disability has been occupied, let us make sure that the same category of persons will be considered. And even for this other general where we allow people to retire at 60, let us put into consideration gender, regional balance, and everything, as long as we have people who are qualified for different positions. Madam Speaker, the bill also addresses the issue of officers in acting capacity. In most of our ministries and even public offices and even private offices and even our counties, there are people who have been acting for more than 6 months, for more than 1 year, even 5 years. This means that even for the particular member of staff, productivity level goes down, and even commitment, because you do not know what will happen to you next, and you are always on capacity, kind of, you are never confirmed, and you wonder whether you are adding any value even to the institution. So the recommendation they have made, that you can only be on capacity, acting capacity for 12 months, is a good one, and it is my prayer that even those counties, those institutions that have people who are working as casual workers for more than 6 months, they should review or they should look at their work, whatever, and see how they can help the people. Because if you want people to be productive enough, if you want people to give their best to any institution or any office, you must confirm them and you must give them their job description so that they can perform according to their job description. But acting capacity will make people not to work, will make them not to work, will make them not to give their best, and will make our country not to do what we are supposed to do. And in terms of performance and efficiency, we will always drag behind. So with those few remarks, mine is to support, and I recommend the job well done by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next chance to the MP from Mombasa, Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi niweze kuchangia mjadala huu wa leo ambao umeletwa na Mheshimiwa. Mjadala mzuri sana Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao umeleta marekebisho ya kuweza kuwapa nafasi wale watoto wetu ambao wamesomea na wamebobea katika nyanja tofauti kuweza kupewa nafasi ya kazi, na watu ambao wana uzeni, watu wazima miaka 60 kuweza kustaafu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunajua kuwa watoto wetu wengi wametoka katika university, vyuo vikuu, watoto wetu wamesomea taasisi tofauti tofauti, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini nafasi za kazi mpaka sasa zimekuwa haba, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na tukiangalia mpaka sasa, hata wakati ule wa corona, watu wengi sana walifutwa kazi na nafasi za kazi zikawa haba kwa sababu watu wengi pia walifunga biashara zao, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweza kuwaingiza watoto wetu katika nafasi za kazi, lazima na sisi tutoe nafasi. Ukisha hudumu katika serikali miaka 60, ukiwa umefikia miaka 60, hiyo ni dhahiri kuwa na wewe pia uweze kupisha watu wengine waweze kuchukua nafasi yako, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ila tu pia ningependa kuongezea kuwa na hata wakistaafu katika miaka 60, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini pia wao wanaweza kuangaliwa hawa ambao wanastaafu, kwa sababu tunapata wafanyakazi wengi wa serikali wamestaafu na mpaka sasa marupurupu yao, pesa zao, ile manini yao ambao wanapewa baada ya kustaafu, Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wanalia hawajapata, Mheshimiwa Spika, na wanaishi katika maisha duni. Kwa mfano, tuna watu ambao wamestaafu katika shirika la Kenya Railways, juzi wamenituma marupurupu yao mpaka sasa hawapati, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuweze kuangalia pia na hao watu wazima ambao wanastaafu, licha ya kuwa wanataka kutoa nafasi kwa watoto wetu, lakini nao pia ni Wakenya, waweze kuangaliwa vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuhakikishe kuwa marupurupu ya wafanyakazi ambao wanastaafu wanapewa kwa wakati, ndio na wao pia waweze kuishi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nimeona amezungumzia watu ambao wanafanya kazi kwa kujishikilia. Nimekuwa juzi Mombasa katika taasisi ya maji, Mheshimiwa Spika, nikagundua kuwa yule mkurugenzi mkuu ambaye anahusika pale ameshikilia miaka 2.5, Mheshimiwa Spika, hajaweza kuandikwa rasmi. Na hii inatamausha sana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Watu wanashikilia nafasi za kazi kwa muda mrefu bila kuandikwa katika nafasi zile, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni dhahiri kuwa hata kuna walimu ambao wamekuwa wakisomesha kwa interns, wakisomesha kwa kujitolelea kwa muda mrefu sana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kuna mpaka madaktari ambao wanajitolelea kutibu wagonjwa kwa kujishikilizia, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sisi tunataka watu hawa ikifika ule muda wa kuweza kuandikwa kazi waweze kuandikwa kazi, isiweze kupita muda ule ambao umewekwa katika sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hata hivi tukitetea wafanyikazi, tukitafuta nafasi za kazi kwa vijana wetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuangalie pia na makampuni ambayo yameweka watoto wetu kazi. Kwa mfano, juzi kumekuwa na mgomo Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ilitamausha sana. Mgomo huu ulikuwa wa kampuni ya EPZ, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao nilijaribu kuingilia katikati, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini ningependa pia kamati ya leba waweze kuangalia watoto wetu wanaajiriwa ile itwaje, kushikilia contract mwezi mmoja na mtu amekaa pale miaka 10. Hii haingii akilini, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni dhulma kwa wafanyikazi wa Kenya, ni dhulma kwa watoto wetu, na tuangalie hata makampuni haya na ile kama kamati ya leba waweze kufuatilia, waangalie kwa nini watoto wanaandikwa mwezi mmoja. EPZ kazi ngumu kuanzia asubuhi saa 12 mpaka saa 4 ya usiku. Ikimalizika mwezi anaambiwa rudi tena uandikishe upya. Amekaa pale miaka 10, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuweze kuangalia pia hali za wafanyikazi katika taifa hili, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ndio tunataka watoto wetu waweze kupata ajira, tunataka taifa hili liweze kujengeka kwa ubora, lakini pia tuangalie wafanyikazi wakienda kazini wawe ni watu ambao watakuwa na furaha, Mheshimiwa Spika. Waweze kuruhusiwa pia kujiunga na mashirika yale ambayo yameruhusiwa katika katiba kama unions, kwa sababu unaona wengine wakiingia wanafutwa kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ni watoto wetu sisi. Tusipozungumza katika jumba hili na mimi najua nitaweza kuwafikia kamati ya leba ya jumba hili, niweze kupeleka na mimi petition yangu kutoka Mombasa kwa wafanyikazi wa EPZ, waweze kuwaita hawa managers na directors wa EPZ, tujue kwa nini watoto wetu wanafanya kazi ngumu. Mshahara ni 15,000 Mheshimiwa Spika, 15,000 mshahara ambao ni wa mfanyikazi wa ndani ya nyumba, yule ambaye amekaa ndani ya nyumba. Lakini watoto wetu wanarauka asubuhi saa 12, wanatoka saa 4 ya usiku, hawana hata yale mapumziko, kisha wamepewa target. Kwa hiyo tukiangalia kuwa tutoe nafasi za wafanyikazi, tutoe nafasi ya wazee wakistaafu, watoto wetu wapate kazi, lakini pia tuangalie na mazingara ambayo sisi tunawapatia hawa watoto wetu kupata kazi. Je, haki zao za kimsingi zitakuwa zinaangaliwa? Je, marupurupu yao watakuwa wanapata kwa wakati? Je, wale ambao wamestaafu mambo yao yataangaliwa vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika? Kwa hiyo mimi kama mama Mombasa napenda kupigia pono, nimwambie mheshimiwa ambaye ameleta marekebisho haya kuwa na kupongeza sana, na ni jambo ambalo limenigusa sana, kwa sababu tunajua asilimia karibu 51 ya vijana wetu wa Kenya hawana ajira, na hawa vijana ndio unapata wanaingia katika mambo ya miadharati, wameingia katika mambo ya pombe. Naona juzi naibu wa rais amejaribu kupigana na mambo ya pombe. Ni kwa sababu hawa watoto wamekaa kule hawana kazi ya kufanya. Lakini wazee utawapata bado wako makazini. Hatukatai wazee kwa kazini, lakini ikifika wakati wa kuondoka, wapewe nafasi ya kuondoka tena kwa heshima, waangaliwe kule nyumbani watakapokaa, wapewe marupurupu yao, waangaliwe afya yao, waangaliwe mambo yao mazuri, lakini watoe nafasi kwa watoto wetu ambao ndio vijana. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Muda wako umekwisha, Mama Mombasa. Before I give the next speaker, allow me to recognize our students in the public gallery from Blessed Beyond Primary School, that is Kasarani constituency, Nairobi County. Join me in welcoming them to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Chepalungu, Honorable Victor Koech.
Yes, I am hearing, Madam Speaker, someone calling me Mandazi. Indeed, I'm Victor Koech Mandazi, and it's officially in my ID, so no one should fear calling me that name. Thank you, Madam Speaker. While I rise to contribute, I would really want to thank the chairperson who moved this particular bill. It is, and for a very long time, we have had this particular regulation and not having it in law. It's important now as a country that we consider having the 60 years put into law. While we speak about the same, Madam Speaker, in consideration equally is the rate of unemployment for our youth. For a very long time, and particularly to the Teacher Service Commission, that is TSC, within my constituency, there are persons who are now above 45 years. And in particular, Madam Speaker, there is one, Mr. Kiptuya, who teaches in Makimeny Primary School, 45 years, about to go to retirement at 60, and yet, Madam Speaker, he is unemployed. There are such and several cases within our country, and it's about time that we consider this kind of unfairness to our youth, this kind of unfairness to the people who went to school, who went to their colleges, who sacrificed their earnings so that they can take their children and their siblings to school, and yet they have never been employed. And Mr. Kiptuya case is trending all over, and as the area member of parliament, I have had a discussion with TSC, and hopefully he is going to be considered in the coming recruitment, because it is sorry for one to be at 45 years, 46 years, and we expect him to work for 15 years to retire. At that particular age, he will not be fruitful, and any other person will not be fruitful. On acting, Madam Speaker, for someone to have acted for more than 3 years, normally they are compromised because the appointing authority normally scares them. Their work is normally jeopardized. And Madam Speaker, it is necessary that we now have it at a maximum of 12 months, after which the authorities should be able to advertise for the positions and correctly fill them so that we have persons who are substantial in those particular positions who can be able to deliver without fearing anyone. These cases, Madam Speaker, are so rampant in our counties. You find a CEO who has been acting for more than 4 years. Normally, they fail to deliver eventually because they always fear losing their jobs from the appointing authority. Madam Speaker, once again, I would like to reiterate, and even seeing next to me is the chairperson for education. The issue of our teachers is really scaring. I want to repeat again, Madam Speaker. 45 years of age, Kiptuya from Makimane, yet to be employed. He is to retire officially when we have now this regulation being considered as a law. It is something that we need to look into as a country, and we, the leadership that have been given the powers now, have to find a solution for the same. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I want to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Garissa Township, not in the House. Honorable Kihongi of Kangema.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support the report from the committee. Madam Speaker, and the bill by Honorable Gadiro. Madam Speaker, I just support the 2 points whereby the issue of retirement age, I think it has been misused a lot, whereby that aspect whereby that says that a person can get an extension after 60 years due to expertise. So many people has misused that provision, and you find there are people who are going up to 65 years, but they mean that they are expertise because they have retained or they have knowledge on the institution. But one thing that the CEOs or the leaders who are in the institution should do is that they should always prepare for succession. I think that's an area that has been misused by the CEOs, by the head of departments, whereby they don't prepare for succession. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I wish we have to make it strict after 60 years that everybody should retire. Madam Speaker, on the issue of acting capacity, it has been misused mostly by the CSs, whereby if they want to control a parastatal, they just make sure the CEO in a parastatal is in acting capacity. We have seen them acting more than 2 years, 3 years, and you find that person is at the mercy of the CS who seconded him or her to that institution as a CEO in acting capacity. I want to support the recommendation by the committee that 6 months that was recommended by Honorable Gadiro might not be enough maybe for recruitment of a CEO, but within 1 year, even if there are litigations, there are chances now of some institution not able to recruit a substantive CEO or staff. In that succession, 1 year is enough. Therefore, the recommendation by the committee that we move from 6 months, which was recommended by the mover of the bill, amendment bill, to 12 months, I think that will be extremely enough for even if there are litigations, there are issues, they will have been concluded. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I don't want to belabor on this issue. I wish to support the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very much. The Honorable George Koimburi, member for Juja.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii ili niweze kuchangia hoja ya bill hii ambayo imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Meja Dong. Nimshukuru sana Mheshimiwa sababu ya kuleta hoja hii muhimu kuhusu watu wakongwe ama wale ambao wamefikisha miaka ya kwenda retire. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii Kenya yetu tuko na shida ya hao watu ambao wamezeeka na miaka yao imefika 60 ya kwenda retire. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati wamefika miaka 40 huwa tunaona hakuna mwana youth yeyote ambaye amefaidika na experience ambayo iko na yule mzee. Kwa hivyo nachukua nafasi hii kupongeza Meja Dong kwa kuleta hoja hii muhimu. Mwana youth yeyote ambaye ameajiriwa, yule mzee akifika miaka 40 aweze kuchukua nafasi pia ya kumfundisha ndiye aweze kupata kujua ama kuelewa ile kazi ambayo huyu mzee amekuwa akiifanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama vile tunavyojua ni kwamba wale wazee ambao wameenda retire wamekuwa na shida kubwa pale mashinani. Ukweli ni kwamba hawapati pesa zao, ile fidia ambayo yafaa walipwe baada ya kulitaya. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaomba serikali yetu ichukue wazee hawa ili wawe wakipewa pesa zao kwa wakati ambao unafaa. Wakati huyu mtu amezeeka na amepewa litaya, ndio mwili wake huwa unaanza kumsumbua. Kwa hivyo unapata anahitaji madawa, anahitaji kuvaa vizuri, anahitaji hata chakula cha kuweza kumpea nguvu ya kuweza kuendelea na maisha yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ningesema hivi, wale vijana ambao wamechukua nafasi wakati wanafundishwa na huyu mzee akifikisha miaka 40, pia huyu mzee aweze kuongezewa pesa zake, isiwe tu ni zile pesa ambazo alianza nazo kazi wakati aliajiriwa akiwa kijana. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili jambo ni jambo la muhimu na lafaa lizingatiwe na serikali yetu tukufu. Kwa hivyo tumpongeza mheshimiwa wetu kwa kuleta jambo hili, Mheshimiwa Meja Dong. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana. The Honorable Andrew Okwome, member for Karachonyo. In the absence of the Honorable member for Karachonyo, the Honorable Moses Ijendi, member for Malava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I strongly support this bill. Personally, I've been a victim of acting. My former employer, Madam Speaker, kept me in an acting position for 6 years. 6 years. Madam Speaker, for confirmation in the appointment, what struck me most was that I was also subjected to an interview finally. Even when I was sitting before this interview, I was just wondering, for all these 6 years, can I still be subjected to an interview? Luckily, Madam Speaker, I emerged top to be confirmed in appointment. Madam Speaker, also have an experience in this House, Parliament, Parliamentary Service Commission. We have the current CEO of NGCDF Board. Madam Speaker, he acted, I think, for 9 years. And when an interview was called, I remember it was in this House that overturned a decision that had made another person to be number one, to take over from him, after acting for 9 years and performing so excellently as he had done. So, Madam Speaker, I strongly support this because it is so dehumanizing that you put someone in an acting position for over 6 months. Then finally, for some cases, you don't confirm them in appointment. and other persons come to replace them, and these persons deputizing these particular persons, training them even on the job, Madam Speaker, it is so demoralizing, so dehumanizing, that even for fellow staff, it in itself, Madam Speaker, defeatist. Madam Speaker, I would like not to agree with the Mheshimiwa's proposal in clause 2, which proposes an amendment of section 34 of the Act that says, any officer appointed in an acting capacity shall not be entitled to an acting allowance after the expiry of 6 months. Madam Speaker, personally, I would say no person should be allowed to continue acting in a position after 6 months. Madam Speaker, imagine a scenario where someone is put in a position, he has been earning an allowance for acting in that position for 6 months. You retain the person in the same position and you don't pay him an allowance. Madam Speaker, this will be a window for corruption in that particular organization, in that particular system. Madam Speaker, the other point maybe I may want to look at is the issue of 60 years. Madam Speaker, when you look at this country, particularly Kenya, where we are, persons who are the age of 18 and 35, there are so many. When you add on the age of 45, Madam Speaker, it's almost 80%. Why allow a person to continue working after 60 years? Why can't we let this person retire, pay him retirement, pensions, that when he still has the energy now, because most of these persons, some of them, have not been working from homes. They have been staying away from homes, from families for a very long time, for very long hours. Give him time when he's still strong to gel with the family, to know even the house looks like after working for 60 years. Madam Speaker, what is so interesting with this practice is that the issue of retirement was actually left to an entity, a person, the CS, so to say. And this is a person who can make any decision, any time, that suits that particular person at that particular, in that particular situation. So if this becomes now an act, Madam Speaker, I would say that the issue of a person being retained in a position because he has a special talent should arise. Because we ask ourselves, when this person was in this position, maybe for even 20 years or 15 years, what was he doing? And what was the management doing to ensure that there is smooth transition from one level to another level? Madam Speaker, I've also found out that when it comes to this acting, this idea of the age.
Sorry to interrupt you. There seems to be a very serious Kamukunji, a discussion where the Honorable Koimburi is. Please, you may reduce, please reduce your voices, consult in lower tones, so that we are able to hear what the Honorable Member for Malava is saying.
Yeah, thank you, Madam
Please
Speaker.
proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. What I've also found with most officers and most organizations, they put persons in particular positions so that these persons cannot actually be suitable when it comes to a promotion, so that this person cannot be suitable to replace them after their age has reached 60. So, Madam Speaker, we must ensure that as much as we are putting there this age retirement law, we also must ensure that when persons, all organizations have systems that ensure that when a person, for example, is deputizing a particular person, this particular person, before confirmation or appointment in this particular position, actually has the requisite positions to be in that position and also even rise up to the other level without necessarily what we are going through in this particular country. My brother was citing TSC. Yeah, there's a small challenge with the TSC that some of the persons who are acting in positions of deputies, because of the new requirement on promotions, some of them is very interesting. They are acting a position of a deputy, a position of a principal, but actually, even when it comes to promotion itself, this particular person cannot qualify to be principal. So this law will help actually to guide even TSC, to guide in terms of training, so that there is seamless flow of personnel in this country to ensure effective delivery of service. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Charles Ngusia, member for Mwingi West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance to add my voice on this bill on Public Service Commission Amendment Bill brought by Benjamin Mwangi. And from the onset, let me just say thank you and appreciation to this Member of Parliament for bringing up this bill on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, I always believe that you should stay young at heart, kind in spirit, and enjoy retirement, living happily, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I support retirement age of 60 years. If you look at all the countries, the developed ones actually, Madam Speaker, they have set their retirement age between age 60 to 50 years and to 65 years, and I think I am fully in support because most of the time I have been quite disappointed seeing people who are even over 70 in public offices doing a lot of work. Their minds are tired, their bodies are tired, and young and energetic people are still loitering in the streets looking for employment, Madam Speaker. So this actually should be supported by everybody because the bill itself, it's going to bring discipline in management of human resources in public sector, Madam Speaker. The other issue, of course, which has really been raised up in the audit committees, I'm lucky to be in one of the audit committees, has been the issue of person acting for too long. And one case has been the member of the NGCDM board who has acted for 9 years, Madam Speaker. That person cannot effectively discharge the duties if you have been kept on waiting to be confirmed. So by doing so, we are going to ensure we have got a proper succession plan in terms of bringing this sanity, in terms of the number of months you are supposed to act, Madam Speaker. So many civil servants, Madam Speaker, most of them, they end up acting and even getting remuneration. But I would like to beseech the Member of Parliament actually to bring this amendment where he has said failure to comply with this provision will result in the officer not earning any acting allowances. What if the person is still serving and the person does not have capacity or authority to appoint him or herself automatically to this position, Madam Speaker? I wish we can say the person should be deemed to have been permanently employed if he or she has been acting for more than 6 months, and Madam Speaker. So that thing is needs to be looked at, Madam Speaker. Nothing much to lamp on it. I support the 60 years retirement, and let's not look only the jobs, actually. Even the president's appointment should be anchored on this, and anybody who has attended this and should just go home and live peacefully and rest. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable David Gikaria, member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to air my sentiment on this very important amendment which has been brought by our brother, Major Dong. Honorable Speaker, much as we talk about the retirement age at the age of 60, it's also important for us to be cognizant that the public service only employs a very small percentage of the unemployed labor in this country. And as we try to solve this problem of public service, the private sector also, Madam Speaker, which takes the lion's share of employment, we also need, much as Parliament, we need to think now beyond the public service and also be able to legislate on how we should also handle employees who are working in the private sector. And I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because looking at what has been proposed, Honorable Speaker, for a worker to be able to attain up to the age of 60, assuming he was employed at the age of 20, a record 40 years. We hear other employees talking about, have been worked in this institution for the last 35 or something. I think it is recommendable. But Honorable Speaker, also at that age, a person ought to have been able to organize themselves. What happens normally for people when they are told to go and retire and they don't want to go, or they are seeking or asking for extension, is because they have not prepared themselves for retirement. And I think it is important for us also as a committee, as we think about, talking about at what time do you leave your employment, we should also be in a position, whether legally or by law or some legislation, to prepare these employees when they are going for retirement. At the age of 60, Honorable Speaker, it is a little bit old. And it is also for us to think, I don't know what other countries and other jurisdictions do, but I want to believe that if somebody has worked for the last 30 years, at the age, a retirement age of around 55, as it is when you want to get your NSSF retirement, at the age of 55, so that at least we can vacate more positions for the young people to be able. Of course, vacating at the age of 60 will leave a few vacancies for the young generation that is seeking. But I will be proposing a further amendment to reduce it to 55 and be able to see whether we can create more employment for the young generation. Secondly, about the 12 months in acting capacity. Honorable Speaker, 12 months, the proposal by Major Dong, I think the committee should have stuck with the 6 months. Honorable Speaker, an institution must always prepare itself for transition. So we shouldn't be talking about 12 months so that an institution can be able to prepare recruitment and whatever. I mean, what stops the institution from starting a replacement recruitment maybe 12 months before I retire? So I think, again, it is important for us to think critically about the 12 months and be able to leave it at the 6 months so that somebody is assured whether they will proceed or not proceed in the acting capacities that they will be acting. Honorable Speaker, the preparation, and this goes to most of us, particularly the male employee. Honorable Speaker, when I retire at the age of 60, given a small package, that is when now I start looking for a young girl who will be going to rest with me after the 60 years. And this is where the problem starts. That this young girl, when she comes into your life, I will think that she is so much interested in me, but what she's interested is what I have. And as soon as that is finished, then, and I think that is where we are saying that we need to have a program
Intervention
where
by the Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member. Is it an intervention
he's not,
on this subject matter?
He's absent, actually.
Well, you may proceed, Honorable Gikari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I was saying that it is important for us to be able to prepare the retiree that as they are leaving their employment, we will be able to. And secondly also, Madam Speaker, it is important once the institution knows that a certain senior person will be leaving in the next 12 months. Then again, it is important because I doubt whether there is any institution that has no deputy. That deputy should be, aligned to the processes of how the continuity of that institution, even after as we also, because again, we have deputies who have been enacting capacities for a very long time, and it also brings a lot of issues. Honorable Speaker, and I totally agree with Madam Zamzam from Mombasa. It is important for us also to look, as I was saying about the private sector. Honorable Speaker, we passed a private sectors, it's an act of parliament now. And we even pegged how much the private security are supposed to be paid. Honorable Speaker, it is very, very shocking that as we are talking, or we are speaking now, with the act in place, the private sector guards are still being paid the mean mega 7,000 per month when his employer is asking maybe for 35. I think it is important for the institutions which have been bestowed upon this for purposes of operationalization of this act to be able to look that actually these private guards are paid what we had agreed. Honorable Speaker, it is not right for me or any employer to ask for 35,000 and continue paying private guard only some 5,000 without consideration. Honorable Speaker, this is key, that retirement is, yes, as we talk about retirement in this act as proposed by Major Dong, I think it is a way that we need to think and think critically on how we'll be assisting our employees. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support with an intention of bringing a further amendment on the retirement age. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gikaria. The Honorable Fabian Moli, member for Kangundo. Honorable Fabian, I think that mic is not working. Kindly move to another mic. Please provide him with another mic.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorable Speaker, for giving me my chance to add my voice on this bill. It is true, indeed, this bill came to our committee. And also not forgetting to thank Honorable Major Dong and my members, our colleagues in the same committee with Secretariat, for all the work they did for this bill. Madam Speaker, when this bill came to our committee, the first thing there was a lot of crossfire on this retirement age. And we have come to realize that the 60 years for retirement of Kenyans is very important. As we had some submissions, some people proposing that, as also I've heard honorable members say that we should come the age retirement to be 55 years. Others were saying 57. Others were coming with 65 years, leaving the case of disability for 65 years. The 55 years, which went to crossfire in the reduced station, like especially the teachers, parastatals, there was a lot of argument that many members of society, they have taken the loan, basing that their retirement age is 60 years. You have a mortgage which you are looking, you retire at the age of 60 years. You have a car loan, you are looking to retire at 60 years. So we came to found that if we go less these years, we are going to disadvantage many civil servants. So I put also clear that it is not this committee which has put it to 60 years. It was like that before. Before the legislature says that the retirement age was 60 years. It's only that we have now make it to be a act of law. So before was operating through the legislature that the 60 years to be retirement age, but assembly to come to 65 years. So the committee has not come up with a new retirement age. Honorable Major Dong, he just brought it to the act which was in legislation. Also, the second issue through many submissions was about the acting. If you see within the fraternity of public sector in Kenya, there are many people who are acting. They are acting up to 4 years, they are acting up to 5 years. But when we did a lot of public participation and the interaction with many officers, that there was no factual fact for somebody to act more than 2 years. So that's why we found that if given the chance, the public sector, they are able to advertise the job and vet and employ within 1 year. So that's why we came to say that the 12 months is enough to recruit an officer to run another office. So now this bill is chairing the issue of acting more than 1 year. Even now existing many director general in this country, almost all of them, they're acting without any factual fact or any law which is not giving the time. We came to find that because the law is not giving the certain or the time which you can act, the time or maybe the requirement period which you can act, that's where there is that loophole. So this law has steward that, that lacuna that the people can act more than 2 years. Honorable Speaker, the other submission which came with that, there have been special manpower which maybe you get them at the age of 60 years, 75 years, they are still working in public sector in this country, expert like scientists, people working in investigation of aviation, they are still working at age of 70 years. There are also specialized doctors which are also working above 60 years. It is true, there are submission that these people, they can still come in as a consultant. They can still be taken as consultant in that field, especially now many doctors, they are coming in consultant. Aviation, we found that aviation industry, many they work still as employees, but they can still work as consultants. So that thing of making specialized manpower to work for long, this bill is still chewing. The other fact is that the argument which maturity age of the country, if you see right now, many students in grade 6 in Kenya, they are in secondary school. So the pupil who are supposed to be standard 7, now they are in junior secondary. It means that somebody, because I've gone to secondary school, there is maturity in age and maturity growth. So there is a future thinking that if we keep on the age of 60 years, we are going to disadvantage the future youth because people are maturing at younger age. But still, despite that argument, still the government is giving the ID at the age of 18 years. Even if you mature, they still the issue of registration, an issue to be recognized as maturity is still at 18 years. So, Madam Speaker, with those few facts, I support the hack and also I support the submission by our committee. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mary Emase, member for Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also wish to add my voice to this debate on this bill by Honorable Major Dong. Honorable Speaker, the issue of unemployment in Kenya is very serious. Statistics have it that 5.5%, according to the 2022 statistics, the rate of unemployment is at 5.5%. And statistics also have it that every year, an average of 50,000 graduates from universities are released into the job market. That is according to the Commission for Higher Education. And that does not include those that graduate from the middle-level colleges. So all these graduates expected to transit into job opportunities or positions. And I think the questions we should be asking ourselves, all of us, where shall we get these jobs if we continue to retain retired officers? Where shall we get these jobs if officers ask forever? They are acting forever without acting within a certain stipulated or defined period of time. Where are we going to get these jobs if even those who are lost through natural attrition are not being replaced? Honorable Speaker, we've been receiving MDAs and ministries who are telling us they have an aging population that is almost retiring the entire office, yet there are no replacements. So we even have an issue with replacing those who have left office, either as a result of retirement age, or accidents, or death, or in whichever manner. So there is a delay. Why are we delaying? And I want to support the position by one of the members that advertisement for recruitment to replace those who are leaving should be done 12 months to the period the other persons are retiring, because the establishment is there, the allocation is there. Why should that be delayed? Honorable Speaker, I think as a country we must plan for the future generation on how these graduates need to be absorbed as they finish colleges or university. And at this juncture, I want to thank and appreciate the President for the effort he's putting, even getting out of this country, visiting other nations outside in the world, to seek for employment opportunities for our young people in this country. And I want to urge all the nurses out there, apply for the positions for the 2,000 nurses that are needed. And also I want to, at this juncture again, to thank the President for prioritizing programs that are going to generate additional opportunities, job opportunities for our youths in the country, including the housing programs and the EPZs that we are actually pushing as a country. But, Madam Speaker, above all, we must also concern ourselves and ask whether our colleges are preparing the young graduates to match the existing and available opportunities in the world or in the job market. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill by Honorable Major Dong that there must be compulsory retirement after 60 years so that we create opportunities for others. That there must be penalties for those who are authorities that are not complying with the provisions of this legislation. And that there should be expiry of acting in acting capacity. So, Honorable Speaker, I support. And again, I want to congratulate Honorable Major Dong. Thank you.
Well, in the absence of the Honorable Andrew Okwome and the Honorable Julius Meli, member for Tinderet, I now give the opportunity to the Honorable Nabwera Nabi, member for Lungari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to raise to support this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Benjamin for coming up with this amendment. Madam Speaker, as a HR practitioner, one of the things I found very unacceptable in the Kenyan public service is where we have casualized jobs, permanent and pensionable jobs. We have casualized them through acting appointment. Madam Speaker, a public service is a going concern. A public service is an entity of entirety. And Madam Speaker, in a country where you have excess labor, and not just labor, qualified labor, in a country where the public service should be setting standards for the private sector, it raises a lot of concern that we have key positions that remain in acting capacity for many, many years. Madam Speaker, you've heard what Honorable Malulu has shared with you, what befell him for 6 years. Madam Speaker, as I'm speaking to you here, a university in this country, which was almost, a university college which was almost going under, and a deputy vice chancellor was appointed to act. And he has acted effectively and brought that university to life. There has even been an attempt now to remove him and bring somebody who has been serving under him. That is what acting appointment can do. Madam Speaker, in this country, we have moved away from the tenets of code of conduct of the public service that requires one is appointed in acting capacity to assess his suitability, to assess his fit to the job, to now using it as a carrot by those who wield power. We have very sensitive positions. Madam Speaker, in the public service, a director is the engine of delivery. And if you are to look around in the public service in this country, as I was checking this morning, 109 positions, people are in acting capacity. Some as long as 2 years, some as long as 3 years. So the question is, why do we pay an institution called Public Service Commission, which is supposed to be employing public servants? The reason, Madam Speaker, people hang around after attaining 60 years are two. Number one, as a country, we have not done well in terms of pension for people who retire. The time we pay them, especially in the public service, and the quantum. So basically, given that these are the people in authority, they will want to perpetuate themselves in offices by always saying there is nobody ready to take over the job. As we deal with this issue, we need to revisit the Pensions Act. We need to look at the people who retire. What happens to them? We need to improve health care. We must think through, in the new scheme of things, how somebody who has served this country for so many years cannot afford health care. Somebody has retired as an undersecretary. Somebody has retired as a director. After 2-3 years, he cannot be able to pay a bill, a medical bill. Those are some of the reasons why people don't want to go home when they attain 60 years. Madam Speaker, as we think through this, there is a new animal in the house called internship. You know, those of us who come from the HR field, we keep on wondering how you can make a teacher serve as an intern for 2 years. That makes it a casual job. I mean, a person staying with kids in school, and that's the animal we have at the JSS. That's why we can't stabilize that. When I grew up in this country, it was very clear when you join a job, after 1 year, they will assess whether you are suitable to be confirmed in that job. So I'm even calling on the Teacher Service Commission, I'm calling on the Public Service Commission to reconsider the approach of keeping young people as interns for 2 years and reduce it to 1 year and confirm them in employment. Madam Speaker, good HR practice, you must have a HR plan in place. If you have a HR plan in place, you automatically know Nabina Bwera will be retiring in a year or 2 years or 3 years. You start getting somebody to understudy Nabina Bwera. So when he reaches the retirement age, that person takes over automatically. There shouldn't be a vacuum where we are saying we are looking, we don't have a person, we need to, we even waste a lot of money advertising where people need to grow in the system. But the biggest problem we have, Madam Speaker, is this issue, the general principle of inclusion. The reason you have 109 directors in the public service acting is somebody is waiting for his kinsman. Because the kinsman is not the second person, the immediate understudy of this person. So keep that person in acting. We need to espouse regional balance, gender parity, and the whole question of BWD in the public service. If the public service flouts the HR practice, the code of conduct, how do we expect the private sector to behave? They will follow suit because the person setting the standard is not doing the right thing. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill and thank Mheshimiwa Benjamin for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members have purposively gone to the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, and I'll also purposively go to the Honorable Kosgei for very obvious reasons, Honorable members. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Picking up from where my good friend, Honorable Nabi, has left, Madam Speaker, positions of acting. The succeeding governments have kept civil servants in acting positions for too long. One of the the case I remember very well is the CEO of the CDF board, Mr. Mbuno. He was kept in acting position for 6 or 7 years. Then after that, you see now they come and try to confirm his appointment. I don't know why somebody would act for so long like that when you know very well he has qualified for that position. He is a person with competencies that have been approved and all that. Madam Speaker, even this amendment, I don't know what mischief is trying to attain because, Madam Speaker, people who are acting positions, and if this amendment says that this amendment is to create more vacancies for young people, Madam Speaker, I think we can do better than that. There are many ways we can create jobs for young people. We must increase the more opportunities in the public service because people who are retiring vis-a-vis people who are coming up to employment, the ratio, I think, is not the same. So as we discourage these things of people acting in position for too long, there should be a policy that creates job opportunities at different levels of government, at different agencies, and even at the private sector, informal sector, and all that. And Madam Speaker, even in this amendment, we need also to capture mandatory retirement age is 60 years. For people with disability, 65 years, it must be captured that also the people with disability must be also given to because sometimes people with disability, they get into employment job market very late in life. Some are employed when they are over 40. And when you now tell them they retire at that age of 60, mandatory 60, then you disadvantage them. So we just wish that this amendment will bring sanity in the public service so that people who are given acting, maybe is acting in a position to wait maybe for replacement or something that's happening, or as I say, who has got rare competencies that cannot be captured by somebody else. Because this, Madam Speaker, I believe that we have abused this position by allowing somebody sitting in a position not very sure whether he will be there tomorrow. And that even affects performance because somebody who is not guaranteed of his position may not perform very well. But when somebody is given a position and knows very well he's going to serve up to this time, he will be able to perform and can inspire others also to perform. And especially those who are sitting in senior positions, Madam Speaker. So we just want to see that public service and including the appointing authorities, especially, I remember in the last government, many CEOs of parastatals, almost 80% of them were in acting capacities. So you wonder why, if they put him in an acting capacity, why wouldn't they not find a way of either replacing him or confirming him so that he can continue? So, Madam Speaker, I just want to add my voice, but I also want to say that people with disability must also be given, when we are doing this amendment, Madam Speaker, we shall amend at a later stage to include persons with disability in this amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak on this.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think my colleague team has handled. I wish to have a voice here that in this bill, as we do amendment, Madam Speaker, it must come out very clear in treating what one would consider as a bureaucratic marginalization, a silent policy that removes certain people and denies them certain enjoyment in public service. So one such is a silence on, is it 80, section 80 of this amendment? It is not mentioning and coming out clearly to include persons with disability as one of the targeted in terms of making it clear on the retirement. It has been done well in the Public Finance Management Act. This must also be reflected in the public service, that persons with disability retire at the age of 65. We have a case, Madam Speaker, somebody, Francis Manaibei, from Central Bank, who was retired 2022 at the age of 60, and the bank would not consider even the public service circular that came out in 2012, and also the subsequent amendment on the Public Finance Management Act, because in some laws it is not recognizing. And I think this is the right time, Madam Speaker, this is considered and be reflected in law. So I think, as team mentioned, Honorable, that later on in this detailed amendment, I plead with the mover to accept that this be made an outstanding, identifiable area of treatment by this particular law. Second, Madam Speaker, is that, as my colleagues have said, this is to deal with the issue of acting that has been witnessed in public offices. I think it is important to be clear on this because some officers have acted in offices perpetually without any consideration. And when the new recruitment is done, some of them are thrown out, yet they have carried out a good work in the service simply because of other consideration. And finally, it is why I support is because our population generally, as a country, is a young nation. We have the population at over 50%, and I think the best way to do it is to find a way of absorbing them, this being one of the ways and not the only way, but we must balance between experience, what the nation needs, and not punish and use age as a punitive alternative for us to get a room for someone else. We don't have to deny one to give another, but we need to balance between the two considerations. With that, Madam Speaker, I support the bill.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Rahim Dawood, member for North Imenti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in I would request to be protected
I can see
from
that you are upstanding. The
Honorable-
Honorable Order Member for North Imenti. The Honorable, I don't want to use your other name. The Honorable Felix. Because I can see where you are on the screen, I'm very sure that we'll get to you. What was your intention? Because you rose on your feet and you are raising up your hands. I'm just sticking on the screen. Honorable members, we have very clear instructions. If you do not have a card, I am not going to allow you. Those are the instructions from the Speaker. For the rest, I'll follow the cue.
Madam
So
Speaker,
now
they're
it is
taking
time
my-
for the Honorable Rahim Dawood, member for Imenti.
Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in supporting this bill, the Public Service Commission bill. Madam Speaker, last year in November, my bill, the Public Service Values and Principles Bill, has already gone through, where it says that we need to have all the facets of communities, of disabled, of women, of gender, together with the counties where people come from, to be specified. And Madam Speaker, already we have gone to, it has gone to the Senate, and hopefully it should be law. Madam Speaker, I agree with Honorable Major Donk in that this bill, we need to specify the 60 years as retirement age. We should not leave it to regulations, because if we leave it to regulations, people will stay. Madam Speaker, there is another portion in this bill where Major Donk has not touched on, is where even if you pass the retirement age, you can be contracted and you can still be employed through a contract. Madam Speaker, there should be no reason to employ anybody on contract because they have special skills. A lot of us have got special skills, a lot of the youth have got special skills, and we should definitely give space to the youth to come up, because how are they going to develop any skill if we say we are just going to be employing retirees on contract after the retirement age? Madam Speaker, on the acting capacity, Madam Speaker, I know one of the directors, I will not mention, he was there for 6 years as in an acting capacity, always in an acting capacity. Madam Speaker, I agree that they should be there only for a maximum of 6 months, and after that, Major Donk has suggested that they do not get paid. Madam Speaker, I want to put a further amendment to that and say that if after 6 months, the Public Service Commission cannot recruit any other person, then that person should be confirmed to that position so that at least they understand the gravity of the matter, because having somebody in a position 6 months, even again, it is against the labor laws, because you cannot employ somebody on a casual basis for more than 6 months. You have to make them permanent after 6 months. So, Madam Speaker, we need even to put a rider there that after the 6 months, if Public Service Commission has not recruited, then that person will be confirmed to that position and no longer in acting position. Madam Speaker, regarding the 60 years, it is a bit debatable, but I believe that it is the right way to go so that we get people in the younger generation below 60 from 40 or 30 getting into management positions. Madam Speaker, my bill, the Public Service Values and Amendments, Principles and Values Bill, it talked about giving fair chance to the disabled. Madam Speaker, as we are talking right now, the public service And I thank my colleagues, Honorable Tim and Honorable Bishop, because it is less than 5%, which is specified in law, that 5% should be there, minimum of 5% of PWDs should be employed in the public service. Madam Speaker, as we are talking, it is much, much below. The same case with women, Madam Speaker. And if we go to talk about the communities who are employed, Madam Speaker, it talks about the Public Service Commission to make a report every year on how they have satisfied the values and principles of public service. But Madam Speaker, unfortunately, when the data is released, we see disproportionate representation of some of the communities who are in public service. Madam Speaker, some communities, I mean, if we have got 43 tribes or 44 at the last count, some are not even represented, even one, forget 1%, even one is not represented in the public service. Madam Speaker, we need to get to the bottom of this, and we need to tell the Public Service Commission to up its game, and if they cannot perform, Madam Speaker, we need to change it. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support this bill with a few amendments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Atandi, member for Alego Usonga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would have opposed this bill if it was not for the fact that it is here because of my colleague and friend, the Honorable Major Donk. Madam Speaker, retirement age, ideally, is not something which should be fixed in law. It is something which should only exist in the policy documents of government, so that every government that comes into place, they can easily tamper with the retirement age of its population. I say this, Madam Speaker, because I believe that retirement age should be determined by some factors, which I'm going to cite. One of the factors which should be used to determine retirement age is the demographic trend of a country. For example, Madam Speaker, in our country right now, we have a more youthful population. About 70% of our population are youth. About between 20 to 15% constitute the seniors, the people I call the seniors. So if you have a trend like what we have now, then retirement age should actually be lowered so that we address the needs of the demographic population of our country. So if you ask me about retirement age today, I would say it should be brought down to 55 or 50, because the people we need to take care of are more in the lower bracket than in the higher bracket. If you go to countries like USA, those countries are having problems with the aging population. There are more older people than young people. So the retirement age in those countries is higher. Like now, US, I think, is 67 to 70. So that's why I mean, Madam Speaker, that it cannot be set in law. So if we pass a law fixing retirement age to 60, and next year or the years after, there are more older people, we need to increase that age to 70. Because if there are more older people in a country and the retirement age is lower, it means you are putting a burden of keeping the older people in a country. It's going to be very higher, and it's going to affect the performance of the economy of our country. So, Madam Speaker, I sincerely feel that my colleague would look at this law and look at it in line with the democratic status of our country. The other factor, Madam Speaker, which I believe is important in determining the retirement age of our country is gender. Because, Madam Speaker, in some countries like Indonesia, you find that the female gender, they have a lower retirement age. And I believe in Kenya, we need to do that. Because given that right now we are having social problems, which are caused by parentage problems, parenthood, weak parenthood. We're having things like alcoholism, things like LGBTQ, all these problems. We need to allow our female gender to retire early so that they can also go and attend to the challenges we're having like these ones, which most of them are happening, by the way, because parents are not engaged in taking care of their children. They are working. Kila mtu anazunguka huku na huku. So, Madam Speaker, this gender question is something which I think this House needs to take note of. Because we are, in as much as we want people to earn money, but we also should be interested in the future of our country. What kind of people are we raising? Madam Speaker, the other factor which I also think should be considered when looking at retirement age is that we need to separate between private sector and public sector. So that if you're working in the private sector, you could be allowed to retire earlier. But people working in public sector, for reasons that we know, that public sector we need people who have been there longer to continue serving because of history and track record.
Order, Honorable Member for Lego Usonga. The Honorable Nyenze, are you on an intervention?
Speaker, I want to contribute.
Or you are just being strategic?
Yes.
You may proceed to conclude, Honorable Member for...
Thank you. So Madam Speaker,
Samuel Atandi, you may proceed to conclude.
I was saying that we need to separate between people in public sector and people in private sector. And my view is that if you're in private sector, we need to maybe have a shorter retirement period than if you're in public sector. Public sector, we may need people who to stay longer because of the history and, the experience of public sector is very specific. So that's something which we need to put into consideration. Madam Speaker, there are countries that have given us very good examples of how to manage retirement age. If you go to a country like Thailand, retirement age is 55 because the youth are more than the elders. So, but they are always increasing the retirement age every year. Every year they add because they are checking the advancement of these ages vis-a-vis the resources they have. So, Madam Speaker, as I said when I started, that if it were not that this motion was brought by somebody who is my close friend of mine, I would oppose it in totality, because this is not something which we need to put in law. If we put it in law and tomorrow the aging demographic trend changes so that we have more older people, if the population of our country, say 50% are older, you cannot reduce the retirement age. You have to increase the retirement age so that the people who are older can continue working. But if the youths are more, then you lower it. Right now, actually, we need to have it at 55 or 50, because all these youths that we are graduating every day, where are they? They are not getting jobs. So let the old people leave early, the young people get the jobs right now. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Rindikiri, member for Buri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill basically addresses three key issues: the age of retirement, the acting, and the contract. Madam Speaker, I think I agree with all the members, and specifically the mover, that we need to make amendment on clause 2, 3, and 4, where it is addressing pertinent issues that affect employees' service. Madam Speaker, I would wish to state that the mover considers Section 81, because Section 81 also calls the age 50. So in your attempt to make the amendment on 80, please consider also making amendment on Section 81, because it flows. Because if you leave it without making an amendment, then you are not going a good justice. We shall come back again. Madam Speaker, I totally agree that it's very important that we put a fix on the age limit. Mr. Speaker, we cannot leave it on regulations. Madam Speaker, we cannot leave it on regulations. Let us entrench it in the law. That way, it will become more easy to enforce. Because why it is very weak is because as it is now, it's on the regulation. And therefore, implementing and executing it, it becomes very difficult. Madam Speaker, there is no reason as to why people should not retire at age 60. I think it is good. That's where we ended. But also we need to take caution that as much as we are talking about the age limit, we should ask ourselves the percentage of Kenyan population that are assimilated in the employment sector. So when we are making the law, we need to be very careful that going forward, we might eliminate what we think is the most productive age of the population. Madam Speaker, I don't quite believe that by putting the cap on the age, 60, is the solution to unemployment in this country. And that's why I'm standing with the President when he's moving all over and trying to do whatever he can to create more jobs for our people, not to enter into employment, but to enter into self-employment. Madam Speaker, there is no reason as to why someone should continue active for 3 months, let alone 6 months. What's the reason? To me, I think the shorter period, the better, because any organization that follows the procedures that has work and code of conduct and guidelines, the succession program need to be managed before the retirement age. So, Madam Speaker, I think the problem that we're having is the operations and the management of these institutions, which need to be taken care of through a succession program, not waiting until the people are put on acting capacity. Madam Speaker, there is a serious problem, and it is cutting across all the sectors of this country. Madam Speaker, some people are taking employment, acting capacity, and the weakness to create opportunity for people to continue serving, and others to see an opportunity for them to put people into those positions. Madam Speaker, the TSC is notorious. TSC is very notorious on this. Again, I agree with the honorable member who said this issue of having people retire and then they continue serving again and acting capacity at the same time. I think that is long and it should not be encouraged. Madam Speaker, the contract. Madam Speaker, I think the government is running away from responsibility. It is easier and cheaper to employ people on contracts, given the circumstance of the economy. But now what we are saying is that there are some sectors in this country, particularly the teachers, who should not be put on acting capacity, on contracts. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support this amendment, but I ask the mover, please, to make sure that you consider Section 81. On a final note, Madam Speaker, the issue of pensions is becoming a very serious problem. There is a problem at the pensions department, paying of pensions for our retired people. Some of them have not been limiting retirement funds regularly, so that when the people are retiring, they have no money. But I think we must make it a deliberate effort that all the retirees, because there's a procedure which is in the Public Service Act, that how the pensions will be paid. They need to stick to that, and they need to ensure that when somebody is leaving service, maximum waiting period is not more than 3 months. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Edith Nyenze, member for Kitui West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to say that I support this amendment with of the Pension Service Commission. And from the onset, I will say with amendments. And one of the things which I want to talk about is the acting capacity for the employees, which is taking too long. And the committee did a good service to this act by saying that it should be reduced to 12 months, but still 12 months is quite a long period, because all along the employer knew that this person who is maybe the end of the department will retire at this particular time. So they should not be given too much time to act, because all along they had known that the person is going to retire. So there should be proper planning, a proper succession planning of the organization to know who is going to take over after this person retires. There should also be some training of the employees who are already in place, so that immediately this end of department retires, that they should be in a position to take over. Because it's actually very disappointing for one to work in an acting capacity for too long, and then when they now get a replacement, this person is not considered who has been acting on acting capacity. It can be very disappointing after working for so long, only getting allowance without being properly remunerated. I would say that it's very important for an organization to prepare its employees, especially when they just get employed. They should come up with a pension plan, a pension scheme, so that in the event of retirement, this person is well equipped with the proper remuneration or proper pension money, which will help them in retirement, so that they don't link around in the organization. It's also good to prepare them for an organization, but both in the civil service and in the private sector. They should come up with a medical scheme. They should not only a medical scheme, but a medical cover which would also work after retirement. And that plan is there, and they should start contributing early. When they people get employed, they contribute towards their medical cover after retirement. They also contribute towards their pension after retirement. And this would ensure that once they retire, then there will be no fear of going out for retirement. The pensionable age of 60 years and 65 years for people with disability, this one I support, because it's better to put it in the Act instead of just being in the regulations, because this one can be be changed anytime. So I support that. Then the other thing, Madam Speaker, which I want to talk about is that employees, that is after retirement, people should be paid immediately. There are some, especially teachers, who are after retiring, they take too long to be paid. The government should ensure that the pension money is paid at the right time. Then, Madam Speaker, I would also comment on the rate of unemployment in our country. It's quite high, and it's also very disappointing to see, especially teachers who stay for too long before being employed. You see a teacher who is almost attaining 45 years, 50 years, and has not been employed by the Teachers Service Commission. And Madam Speaker, we also agree with me that there is a lot of imbalance in our country, especially when it comes to employment of teachers. You find some regions where teachers have been employed who have just left college. Others leave college and they take too long to be employed. So there should be some balance. So what happens to that one who gets employed at 45? Because after that 45 years, they will not get any employment. So what will happen to them? So there should be some balancing in the country, especially on the employment of teachers. As I've said, in some regions, they are employed immediately. Other regions, they wait, and it's very, very disappointing to see them having been trained as P1 teachers, and they don't get employed. So, Madam Speaker, I support and also say that there should be proper training, proper planning, so that by the time one comes to retire, that the institution knows who is going to take over. We should not encourage even waiting for 3 months, even waiting for 12 months. It should be after retiring. After one retires, they go home and give room for another person to take over. Because imagine acting indefinitely, acting without knowing whether you are going home after 3 months, after 6 months. You will not be productive in the institution, because you are just planning on when and how you are going home. So let's have proper planning, proper succession planning. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable John Waweru, member for Dagoretti South.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Benjamin Gadhira Mwangi, because this is a bill that he had brought to the House in the previous year, and I'm glad that it has now seen the light of day. And I want to say right from the onset that I do support. Madam Speaker, one of the points that is being made against the argument that the Honorable Member for Embakasi Central is making is that there are people who are saying that there is reason for extension of time for an individual who has special skills. Madam Speaker, we ought to ask ourselves, if an individual has been employed in the public service at the age of 20-something or 30-something, it means that this individual will have worked for not less than 30 years before they are due for retire. An entire institution cannot be unable to prepare a successor for such an individual. And so, Madam Speaker, there is no argument that can be made that there is one individual who ought to be retained because they've got special skills. So on that point, Madam Speaker, I want to not only support this amendment, but also say here that when it comes to the third reading, I shall be seeking to re-amend the provision so that the age of retirement is reduced to around 55 years, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a country that has a median age of 19. Today, this is an extremely young country. It means, Madam Speaker, that with every year, when we are graduating in excess of 500,000 individuals from Form 4, and in excess of 150,000 graduates every year, Madam Speaker, it means that there are very few spaces available for absorption into the public service and a huge number of supply for people who can work. But Madam Speaker, we also have to think about it in the flip side. Look at institutions that have retained old staff. Madam Speaker, if you look at what was previously the Kenya Post and Telecommunication Corporation, if you look at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, if you look at Kenya Railways, they are retaining what you would call redundant staff. Why, Madam Speaker? Because we are moving into a new age. We are moving into a new world. We are talking of new technologies. There is an aging population in the public service that is not fit for purpose for a time such as this. It is a time when we need to be onboarding new knowledge, new technologies, new approaches. But even when we talk about representation, if it is such a young country where 75% of this country's population is under the age of 35, then it is only representative that even the public service ought to be reflecting such age demographics. Madam Speaker, the second matter that this amendment seeks to cure is the mischief of the misuse of the position of an acting staffer. Madam Speaker, it is condoning mediocrity to say that we have institutions in the public service that cannot prepare for succession for less than 6 months. Madam Speaker, what is the business of an individual acting in a position for 6 months if this individual cannot be confirmed into that position? It means then every judgment is pointing to the inability of that individual to perform the duty. Then why do we have to retain them for 6 months or for 12 months if they are unable? Madam Speaker, we should be looking at building institutions, not individuals. Any individual is replaceable in any entity, in any institution, in any position. Madam Speaker, we cannot be retaining certain positions for individuals. That would mean that our institutions are so weak that they cannot stand in the absence of a certain individual. Madam Speaker, there is a point to be made about the social fabric of this country. We are bemoaning a situation of a drunken population, misuse of drugs, the abuse of alcohol. we are talking about social ills like we are seeing the femicide matter that we were prosecuting here on Valentine's Day. How does it connect to this topic, Madam Speaker? It connects in this way, that in the African tradition, there was a very good demarcation of the work that should be done by each age set. If I look at my culture, there was a place for the Njama. There was a place for the Kiama. There was a place for the warrior. This warrior position, which is what we call the working population today, was a preserve of an individual at their prime. At your prime, you are able to work, defend the community, you have the energy and the agency and wherewithal to work hard at that age of being a warrior. Then you graduate to the decision-making body, the lower house, which is the Njama. When you perform very well in the Jama, then you can be accommodated into the Kiama. The Kiama stands at the prime, at the top. This is the advisory role. You have already retired from active duty. You have already retired from superintending, and now you are at the level of oversighting and offering wisdom. But what happens today, Madam Speaker? Today, we have individuals who spend their entire life working in one institution. At the age of 70, they're still holding to that position. These individuals, Madam Speaker, will never get the opportunity to spend time with their children, to spend time with their wives, and to spend time with their grandchildren. So what happens? It is that there is nobody today at home to advise the young people on what they should do with their life, because people are being held in positions beyond their well-working years to an extent that now the fabric of the society is disintegrating. Madam Speaker, the point I am making is that an individual can give their best years to public service up to the age of 55, after which they can get time to retire back at home and give the knowledge and wisdom that they have accrued to the next generation. And Madam Speaker, in that way, we shall be able to start facing head-on the problems that we are having, the problem of drug addiction, the problem of alcohol abuse, the problem of negative masculinity. These young boys do not have people to mentor them because their parents and their grandparents are stuck in offices all the way up to the age of 65 and beyond. Madam Speaker, there are dispensations and jurisdictions that have a place for someone who has worked extremely well. Look at the individual or the personality of the member of parliament for Kamukunji. If we were in such dispensations, what normally happens, and I'll give an example of the UK, if you have served with distinction, and it is notable that you have a special skill that must be retained for the service of the country, they have an automatic admission to the House of Lords. What is our equivalent of the Senate? So much so that the brilliant people who have served in public service and have the wherewithal, have the wisdom, have the energy to continue serving, they have a place where they can upwardly be displaced to serve even better. Madam Speaker, the point I'm making here is that it is time we relook at our constitution and look at how the bicameral house has served us for the last 10, 11 years and see if there is a way we can make our Senate to be a bit more esteemed, a bit more useful to our country by having positions where we can admit exemplary individuals who have served in public service, who we think have something that we can retain beyond the years that are given for public service. And to my mind, the place where we could be admitting these people, if we were to amend our constitution, would be our Senate. And that way, we would be moving it to be the ultimate upper house. Because as we speak today, the Senate is even struggling to find its footing in the pecking order, because the power of the purse is in this house, the power of budget is in this house, to an extent that at times the Senate is found to be having no business to do, and they have to look for business from the parliament to go and prosecute it in Senate. Madam Speaker, I was standing to support the efforts of the honorable member for Embakasi Central and say that this is timely, and in due course, I shall be making amendments so that we can remedy and cure the mischief that these amendments seeks to cure. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable David Mboni, member for Kitui Rural.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this by civil servant. Madam Speaker, if you recall, this retirement age was moved from 55 to 60 for 3 reasons. One was to put the retirement age at the same level with East African countries. 2, to reduce pressure on the pension bill, which was actually increasing in high rate. 3 was to retain officers in the civil service, because there was a very big gap, because government has frozen recruitment of civil service. So you realize that for around 10 years, there was no new recruitment in the civil service. But one who asks himself or herself, after increasing the retirement age to 60 from 55, did we resolve those issues? Because the pension bill still remains very high. After retirement, people are not getting their retirement benefits immediately. Actually, if you go to rural areas, as members of parliament, we are always having people coming to ourselves, asking us to intervene so that they can get their pensions. And of course, increasing the rates, the age from 55 to 60, that increment of 5 years, you can see the people who are supposed to retire, the number should have been replaced by the younger people. So actually, to me, to some extent, it increased the unemployment rate. I'm a former civil servant, and I've witnessed people who acted for more than 5 years. After retirement, they act for more than 5 years. So this bill, I think I should actually bring an amendment so that if somebody has to act, let this person act for 1 year or 2 years maximum. Because there is nobody who has monopoly of knowledge, who has monopoly of experience. During that person's work, there must be advised somebody else who can learn from him to take over after he retires. The acting at age of at 6 months, to me, this is a very short time, because I've seen people acted like the CEO CDF has acted for more than 7 years. I even have a relative who have acted for more than 1 year in the civil service. But I think the proposal should be 12 months, and after 12 months, this person should be confirmed on permanent basis for the job. I've seen people who have acted even for 2 years, 3 years, and at the end of the day, they don't get the job. Somebody else from somewhere, from private sector, is brought to that position, and that person will be trained by the person who has been acting. Madam Speaker, I think it's high time civil servants should be promoted to those positions. Instead of getting people from private sector who don't even understand how public sector system operates, they should be confirmed. The issue of they should not be paid after 6 months, I think that's not the fault of the acting officer. That is the problem with the public service. Madam Speaker, the issue of unemployment rate in this country is stands around 5.5, and I think that this is very low. To me, it should be over 10%, and it's one of the highest in the region, if not in the country. And the reasons, and this high unemployment rate, most of private sector companies have taken advantage of this. You go to companies, most of the people are on temporary basis, are casuals. You let somebody has been a casual for 20 for 10 years, 5 years, because the supply for labor is more. So you don't even need to employ them at permanent level basis. The issue on employment, I think, should be a national conversation. We should have actually a national conversation. The way we are taking it as a country, we are taking it in very lightly. You know, when you say we are going to have affordable housing and we are going to employ people, those are temporary jobs. After the houses are completed, those people, what are they going to be doing? So to me, we need to address several issues. One, the reason for unemployment in this country, slow economic growth. That's the first one. The economy is not expanding. Our economy has been growing at 5% for the longest. In the Vision 2030, the proposal was the economy should grow at 10% for 10 years. But it has never moved from, on average, it has been at 5%. The second one is due to high taxation rates on inputs. So the high taxation has increased the cost of doing business. Lack of incentives also skill mismatch and lack of information at labor market. So these are the issues which we need to address so that at least people can get jobs. Madam Speaker, I was looking at foreign direct investment reports, and I've realized that 2021 to 2023, Kenya received the lowest foreign direct investment. Kenya received 751 million US dollars, while Uganda received 2.5 billion US dollars, and Tanzania received 1.3. Why is it? But you also realize that most of the companies which are investing in Uganda and Tanzania are companies from Kenya. Companies are moving from Kenya, relocated to East African countries, and produce it for Kenyan market through common external tariffs. These are issues we need to address. We need to address our tax system to be friendly to investors so that when they invest here, our youth can be able to get jobs. We also need to create centers at county level to disseminate employment information so that people who cannot access newspapers and other channels of communication, they can be able to access information. We also need to invest in programs and sectors which can produce jobs so that our youth can get jobs. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the civil service need to create career path and progression so that we are not going to have people who are saying that I cannot leave employment because there's nobody else who can succeed me because I have a lot of experience and I've worked in this job for long. With those few remarks, I support Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Felix Adiwor, member for Langata.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. First, I want to take this opportunity to thank the member of Embakasi Central, Major Dong, for bringing up this bill on public. First thing I want to talk about is effectiveness. How effective are you after the age of 55? We know very well that our life is actually categorized in a way you'd know how effective you are. From the age of 1 to 10, that is childhood, 10 to 20, realization of who you are. Career establishment picks up, an assurance from the age of 30 to 40, and definitely planning for retirement after the age of 50 to 60, and the bonus checks in. So when you say that you still want to give your services effectively after the age of 60, we really don't know what you're talking about. Number one, at the age of 60, you should have already had planned on your life after employment. And at that point, I want to again say, you walk into public institutions and you see how old the technologies that are there are. Today, we have new technologies coming in that the age of some of the public service members cannot allow them, they can't understand. That's why you walk into an office and you find that there are even computers that have never been switched on, and if they've been switched on, it's just maybe one application that has been used, just written word, and that all there. It's just collecting dust because there's no one with the skill to operate them. The second thing I want to talk about is planning for retirement. You know, if you know you are not going to retire, you will not plan for anything. You'll just continue working knowing very well that, you know what, I have this job. But then again, how many of our old public service members that you see retire and go into abject poverty? This is because they didn't even plan, because they knew that this is their job and their special skills, that they will be needed and recalled back to the service even after the age of 60. What is this special skill that you have that this new generation and the young people out here cannot do? Where you walk into an institution and you are told that the service cannot be given because an individual is not present. So we have our young people out here walking around in the streets of Nairobi and other major cities with the degrees. We have those with those same skills. But because you are there, not wanting to move, it's like you are welded on that seat. It was made for you and you alone. No, it is time that retirement age be looked at and be passed into a law as this bill by a member of Parliament, Embakasi Central, is proposing. Another thing, a fool at 40 is a fool forever. If you didn't plan anything after 40, there's nothing else you can plan. There are very few people who we've seen create something after the age of 40, very few, and there are very few, that's why we know them. So there's nothing new you want to give us after the age of 50. What is this new thing that you want to give? What is this special skill you want to give after the age of 50? Actually, what the MP of Bwana KJ, MP Dagoretti South was saying is very important. That after that age, you get into the oversight role to just see that other young people coming in. There are so many youths who are just jobless because you are stuck in that seat and you've refused to leave. That is the direction that we want to take. And that is why they will also, number one, reduce unemployment. New people, young people will come in, get the jobs, new skills, new technologies will come in. See the death of Postal Corporation. If you go and you travel a lot, you see how delivery of mails, delivery of postcards happen. But ours here.
Order, Honorable Felix Oduor.
Yes.
What is out of order, Honorable Basil? What is your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm looking at the numbers we have, and I think the quorum is not there. So I think we need to look into that. The good quorum.
Wewe umetumwa na nani? Why would you raise that point of order when I'm already on the floor? I'm already on the floor. Madam Speaker, protect me.
Well, well, unfortunately, the Speaker cannot do anything else. I am going to request that the bell be rung for 10 minutes. Honorable members, you are not allowed to leave the chamber when the quorum bell is being rung. So I would like to encourage you to stay seated. Those are our standing orders, honorable members. And if there is any whip in the house, please ensure that we follow the standing orders, that members remain in the house. So, honorable members, 10 minutes have expired, so I order that the quorum bell is stopped. Honorable members, the Honorable Basil raised standing order number 35 concerning quorum, and we are not able to correct. So, if on the count under paragraph 1, a quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall cause the division bell to be rung as on a division. And if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, and if the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the House until the next sitting without putting a question. So, honorable members, you may arise. Honorable members, and the time being 12:53, this House stands adjourned until today afternoon, Wednesday, the 21st day of February 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Honorable members, the Honorable Felix Adiwar will have a balance of 6 minutes. He has spoken for 4 minutes.